Motor City, Motor City, Motor City. Hello there, and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We're back talking more TNA wrestling shenanigans, and today I want to do something a bit different. I want to talk about how I think that TNA Impact should book the Motor City Machine Guns exit. So now we know that the Motor City Machine Guns are officially leaving, and well, we probably know how they're leaving, but this is a little bit of fantasy booking that I just want to kind of push out there into the world, just to kind of go, well, this is kind of what I want to see. And I think this is kind of like what a lot of fans want to see from the Motor City Machine Guns. These guys, these guys are great, and they have a great legacy, and I'm sad to see them go, but at the end of the day, they're going. People are going to come and people are going to go. That's what people have to remember, that, that happens in the wrestling industry. People forget that Mickie James was in TNA originally. She was there for a short period of time, but whatever. People forget that, a few people were in TNA or got a start in TNA, and things like that. So again, they have a great history and a great legacy, and I guess I want to cap off the end of their current run in Impact, in TNA, and cap it in a good story way. Now, we could do something with them as a tag team. Obviously, they are a tag team, and we are talking about them both together as leaving together, sort of. So kind of I guess I'm going to want to do this in 3 parts, maybe, I guess. So this is just going to be a part that I guess, some people will want to see some parts combined. I guess, I don't know. But still, it's how do you end a legendary tag team's run without sometimes it being, more part of also singles feuds, I guess. So that's what I was trying to think of. I was trying to think of good ways for the team to not only, swan on out, but also kind of them individually to swan on out and, leave the promotion under the best, banner. I like Chris Sabin recently lost one of his a singles match. It might probably be his last singles match. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't seen anything from the last tapings. I don't know whether they're probably not at the next tapings. I think they should have stayed till Rebellion. But again, this is part of the fantasy booking that I think, you could do it in any number of ways, as I said. But I want to get right on into it, and start out with them as a tag team coming back together, to sort of reconcile their differences, and have one last shot at redemption and get back to the tag team titles. So recently we've seen the Rascals in a faction with Steve Macklin and whatnot, and now they've sort of split from that. I think again, there's a big feud to be had between the Motor City Machine Guns and the Rascals, specifically Shelley, more so, but again, there is still some stuff there for Sabin, I think. Okay, so we start out with them, sitting backstage and, sort of begriping that, nothing's sort of worked, after Sabin is, after Shelley loses to Nick Nemeth. I'm about to say Dolph Ziggler. Every time I'm thinking Dolph Ziggler, but whatever. They're sitting backstage and commiserating that nothing has worked out, since they've sort of, split apart. They're better together than apart. And they're having a bit of a promo talking about, how they've, basically laid the foundation for TNA, how they built TNA, blah blah blah, and that sort of thing. And then they're interrupted by the Rascals, who say, "Build it." You might have built it, but so what? You need to get out of our way because we're the next stars, and that sort of thing. And then you go from there, where you go and say, right, well, you guys think you're such hot shit. How about we face you in a match? And is very important in this match. Now, I'm not really going to go over like a match between these two because these two teams are great teams, and they're going to have a great match. But the crucial element that I think needs to happen in this match for storytelling purposes, to book them in a wrapping up manner, is that Trey Miguel needs to pin Alex Shelley. Now, Shelley is going to have a singles feud for a little bit with Miguel because they have a big history together. They're student and teacher. That has been referenced a few times here and there. And I think that that's a really good story that they never really told to completion. And I think that they should tell it to completion. And since Shelley and Sabin are leaving, I feel like if you're going to tell any story with Miguel and Shelley being student and mentor, now is probably the last time that you're going to get to tell that story and tell it to completion. So I want to cap that story off. So I don't really care, what stuff they kind of do in this match and how Miguel beats Shelley at the end. Perhaps he even uses the shell shock or whatever. I don't know, but or the sliced bread. I don't really care as long as Miguel pins Shelley. This is crucial to the next part of his story, and saying that, I brought you into this business, I trained you. It's the classic, student-teacher dynamic. But now you think you've got one up on me. You think, you can really beat me. You think you're a real big star now or whatever. All of this sort of stuff. You have to prove it against me 1v1. So Shelley goes off into that feud. Now we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with Sabin, because that's pretty much all they're going to be able to do as a tag team, really, is like either lose to other tag teams that need it or lose to individual stars who need it. So like the System is the only other tag team that I think would benefit from them losing. Perhaps you could do that as well, along this route. That would be probably all right. But I think it's more crucial to have again, we don't have very long because, I'm thinking that we only have, 1 or 2 episodes with these guys. They're not sticking around for a very long period of time, so I want to wrap it up really quickly before that they go. So it's really 1 or 2 weeks worth of booking. So, again, after he's lost to Nemeth, you could have them lose as a team to the System on the next week's TV, and then lose again to the Rascals and whatnot, or lose to the to the System because of the Rascals, and then lose to the Rascals. And then maybe you just transition Sabin out. I don't really know what you can do with him beyond being a tag team guy that's kind of done everything in TNA, and whatnot. So it's tough to figure out an opponent specifically for him to feud with that he hasn't really feuded, he's kind of feuded with on and off. But recently he had a match lost to Macklin, and when they first had a match back in a few years ago, whatever it was, I can't remember what year it was now, Sabin, I believe, beat Macklin, but in the triple threat match that they had, Macklin, sort of owns a victory over Sabin. So maybe you could go that route with Sabin in having one last match with Macklin because, he feels like, hey, wait a minute. I just realized, you've beaten me and I've beaten you. So you know what? We need a rubber match, and have Sabin lose that rubber match and then sort of just be like sad and on the ramp or in the ring or whatever, and just sort of slowly walk away and then sort of just wave goodbye slowly, or even just like point to the Motor City, like saying, I'm going home. Bye guys, I'm going home, like have that be his last little moment. That would probably be pretty good. I haven't got very much for Sabin, sorry, but I've got way more for Shelley. So it moves on with Shelley going up against Miguel. And again, it's tough for me to say that this shouldn't happen on Rebellion. I feel like it should happen on Rebellion, and that should be Shelley's last night. So build it up to Rebellion. I'm pretty sure you've probably gotten there by now within the last few weeks of me trying to book a few things in there just to shoehorn them into a few things and give them a last few things to, help give other people the rub and sort of on the way out and whatnot. It sucks that you've kind of got to do this, but again, this is the way that things go. So, you're 2 down, or 3 down by the time you kind of get to the end, or even 4 down. So it sort of sucks that way when it seems like, oh, they've lost every match. But, like maybe you can put them on Explosion or something that'll maybe draw some people to watch Explosion and have them win against some random team or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But again, you need to have this story, I feel like, culminate at a pay-per-view, because it is pay-per-view worthy, at least in my opinion. Give it some good time, make it like Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho. The first WrestleMania that they fought, I think it was 19. They only fought at one WrestleMania. Why am I saying the first WrestleMania that they fought at? Whatever. But still, make it like that. That's the type of feud that they're having. They're a student and, mentee or whatever. And now the mentee thinks he's better than the teacher, effectively. And, just have a really great match. Have 20 good minutes of, solid back and forth match between those two. And then have, at the end, somehow, some way, whether it's by hook or by crook or whatever it is, Trey Miguel somehow pins Alex Shelley 1, 2, 3. Again, whether he hits him with the shell shock or whether he hits him with the sliced bread or whatever it is, again, pulling it back to he used one of his mentor's moves to beat his mentor kind of works really well. And you can also kind of do it with the Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels thing. That kind of works. You could do some of that stuff. Originally, I think he even did this. Maybe he didn't. I don't remember. Maybe he should do it, just saying, I'm sorry, I love you type thing, mockingly to begin with. But then he should be pulling it really emotionally right at the end. No, this is for me. I've got to do this. I've got to win. I've got to move on with my career. I've got to beat you. But at the same time, I'm sorry. I love you. Etc. You could pull some of that in there. This isn't literally the end of Shelley and Sabin's career, but it's sort of you maybe want some of that sort of context that Trey does feel oh man, I've got to do this. I feel a little bit bad. This was my mentor and trainer for so long, but I've got to win. And that's the way it goes. And then again, same sort of thing. Shelley is sitting there in the ring or out on the floor or whatever, and he's looking in at Trey Miguel, having his arm raised, and he's sitting there with his hands in his face, and that sort of thing, and just bewildered. And he sees Miguel wandering up the ramp, and then that's where you can say, sorry about your damn luck or whatever it is. Good luck, buddy, or whatever sort of thing. I don't know. Or you could even have Shelley embrace him or whatever. You could do any number of things, but it depends what you want to do with Trey Miguel. You want to start turning him babyface or whatever. You want to keep him as a strong heel or whatever. Again, you could do the Jericho thing where they hug and then he lowballs him or whatever. That sort of thing. I don't know, but still, it's tough to say. So it's interesting to try to figure out exactly what you should do with them. And I say, some things are subjective. So it's not always just, this is what you should do. This is what you should think about doing. This is me saying, hey, you should think about, drawing comparisons to you shouldn't always draw comparisons to other stories, but this is a very comparative story to a lot of other stories. So you're inevitably going to draw comparisons to other stories no matter what. You've got to tell it in your own way, but you might as well lean into that where possible. You shouldn't lean to it too much, but you should lean into it to some degree and sort of, have it work out that way, that Shelley's just sitting there, again, hands in his face. He's dejected that he lost somehow, some way, again. And he's like, what am I meant to do? What am I meant to do? Maybe time has caught up with me. He's shrugging his shoulders. He's looking out at the crowd, and he sort of gives that peace out sort of sign, and he's saying, nah, I'm going home. I'm going home, goodbye, and even again, you could have Sabin come out and be embrace him, and them hold both their arms up, and then be we're going home, goodbye, together, that would be a nice little moment, and whatnot. So, that is how I would book these guys. Again, you could have Sabin lose at Rebellion as well to Macklin in some sort of, hardcore match or something, or some sort of, Iron Man match or something, you could do anything with that. And again, that seems like a good place to end that feud too. They give them a stipulation, build towards it, the rubber match per se, and then have them both, wander off into the sunset, I think that's kind of a cool way to kind of put these guys out there, give them something to kind of work with. I know it's not, again, probably not going to happen, but it's just kind of a little bit fun and a little bit, something that I feel man, that'd be a cool set of circumstances. And I think the fans would appreciate it because, again, the fans, are dedicated. That's why they're fans. They're dedicated to everything and everyone, and you want to pay off, their dedication and, give them a good story reason, again, to kind of, that, already exists. You already know this story exists, and you already know it's real, to some extent, especially between Shelley and Miguel. And there is some sort of precedent between Sabin and Macklin, and especially recently, but again, bring that history back up and make that, the focal point of their feud, and then build it from there, again, have the rubber match, even if you want to put them in a tag team match. I don't know who you could team Macklin with, but whatever, with Macklin. But again, it's well, they're losing to even more teams now. But again, I don't know. It's really tough. But, you've got to do these things sometimes, or you've got to think about doing these things sometimes. And I think it was, a fun experiment. Because I had to think about, initially like, what are you going to do with Saban? Like, because I didn't really have like plans for him. But then I thought, oh well, actually, like he's recently had a thing with Macklin. They've had history together. Actually, that would work out pretty well. Yes, it's not perhaps like as a tag team, but it's so tough to really do anything with them as a tag team as it is, because Rebellion's already got a tag team match going on for Speedball Mountain. So it's like, well, you're not going to do much with these guys at that pay-per-view with, the system. So they've got to lose to the system before that, or they're not going to ever face them. So, and then again, it's like, if they're not going to face, again, the Rascals or something like that in one of their last matches, or somebody that they've had a constant feud with, then it's like, well, what's the point in that? Again, like, you could put Saban with Zachary Wentz and do something with them, but they don't have really any history to go off, except for perhaps saying that, hey, they just beat you guys or whatever, like in a tag team match, like, and instead of that, you could say, well, plan B is like they beat them on TV, like, like with the spray paint or something like that through shenanigans, or and then you say, hey, like, that's twice you've beaten us with the spray paint, or whatnot, like, again, give it more context or do something else, and then say, okay, we're going to have a spray paint match or spray paint on a pole match or something. I don't know, but yeah, like, you could do something like with them as a tag team against the Rascals in a third match. Like, but I think like them having singles matches seems more interesting because you can delve more into each character more individually. Yes, they're a team, but they've had fractures, but you kind of go and give them something else to work with. So I don't know. It just sounds cool, and I would like to see them, cap off their career at a pay-per-view. I know it's not going to happen, but this is, again, like, as I said, fantasy booking. It would be nice to see them go out in a proper way, not just like randomly we've lost to like this guy and that guy. You give it more context, you give it more personal, stakes. You give it more thing again, and that's tough again when you start saying, well, what about them as a unit? Again, you finish off that unit story by having them sort of wander out together, or whatever. I don't know. And you'd have to have their matches pretty much back to back, I guess, to give it the proper timing and whatnot, because otherwise it's sort of, and you'd almost have to have these as like the very semi-main events, probably. So, but yeah, that makes it tough when there's already so many things on a card, and it feels like just adding these guys to singles feuds would be even harder. But adding them to a tag team feud, it would be a lot easier, obviously, in terms of like how many matches are on the card or whatever. So you could do something again with them in that regard with the Rascals. I think maybe again you'd have to keep Shelley on for a little bit longer, or convince him to be on for a little bit longer, and that sort of thing. I don't really think, like, again, Saban does have some stuff that he could do, but I don't really think it's like all that like as amazing like our feud as what Shelley has with Miguel, or as interesting, or as like has as much layers and lore and backstory already that the fans already kind of know. Yeah, so and we've sort of talked about them having a feud on and off here and there on the channel for a while, so it'd be just cool to kind of finally see a little bit of cap off onto the end of their careers in that regard or whatever. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on how they should book the Motor City Machine Guns exit from TNA. You guys obviously can let me know what you thought of this. What do you want to see from the Motor City Machine Guns and in them taking out from TNA or going away from TNA? I really hope that they come back at some point, and especially for a Hall of Fame induction. Obviously, so let me know who else you kind of want to see in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of people that do deserve to be in there as well. But the consistent work that these guys have done over the last couple of years, pretty much, in my opinion, shoehorns them into being one of the top contenders next year for Hall of Fame. But anyway, guys, hope you have enjoyed and hope you will join me again in the next one.